Welcome back to a very snowy day on the Smallholding. It hasn't actually snowed for days, but it hasn't got above freezing for about 5 days, I think it is now. So whatever happened 5 days ago is still here, so it's just not been warm enough to get rid of the snow. So I'm looking out of the window, I'll show you guys in a minute, and it's still just white. But the sun is out, and as you can see, I am freezing. I've been working today, so I've been sat at the laptop, obviously working from home, and it's just really, really cold when you're sat, even if you've got heating and blankets and dogs to keep you warm. So right now, I'm going to get this video started with the courgette flour bread that I made before, a few weeks back or whenever it was, and a few people were asking about it, and I don't think I showed you the results. So back in the summer when we were growing courgettes, or zucchinis if you know them as that, I dehydrated them and powdered them down into what I'm calling courgette flour. And the breads that I'm making, I've got my bread maker tin here because I haven't made homemade bread in this for absolutely ages, and I thought it's about time that I did. So I'm going to actually make a standard 4 or 500 gram loaf, whichever I decide to do, and I'll be replacing some of the bread flour with some of the courgette flour. Now, I know how many courgettes it took to make this flour, so trust me, even just replacing 50 grams, which is what I'm going to do today, is using a lot of courgettes and therefore boosting the nutrient value of the bread. Obviously, white bread's probably not the best thing for you, so I think anytime you can boost the nutrient value of it is a real bonus. So I'm going to start making that together with you now. I actually got some new kitchen scales, so they're just the digital ones, for my birthday. I got some other things as well which I'll share with you over the coming weeks as I start to use them, and we can use them together because of course they are kitchen related things and garden related things. So I'm going to get this bread on, and then at the end of the video I shall show you exactly what it looks like, and we can cut into it together, and the kids will hopefully enjoy it, and we'll have some in the packed lunches tomorrow. I'm going to actually make a 400 gram loaf. So this is just the basic recipe booklet that comes with our bread maker. We've got a Panasonic. Annie is enthralled by this, as you can see. So apologies for the viewing angle. I couldn't remember what it was called then, but I'm just going to chat to you while I make this. So this is the first time I've used these scales, and they're just a digital, just a Salter brand. And essentially all I'm going to do is zero them off with the bread maker tin on top of them and start adding the ingredients in. I'll put the list up on the screen or in the directions below, whichever's going to be easiest. Directions, what's it called? The show notes below, whichever ends up being the easiest. And this teaspoon that I've got here is actually just a half teaspoon because my other one's been, well, it's disappeared, to be honest. So these scales zeroed off, and I'm just going to start adding the ingredients. I'm not taking my gloves off because I am genuinely freezing, so I'm going to have to bear with me. So we want 400 grams of flour. So yeah, well, oh, do you know what? I'm sure, I think that's self-raising. I remember I used this before and it turned really, really cakey. So I'm going to go and get my tub of bread flour and I'm going to start again. So I fill my Kilner jars up from these food grade buckets, but I think that I've messed up when I've put flour in that last one, because the last 2 bread loaves that I've made, as I say, have been more like cakes. So we're going to do this because I know that this is bread flour. Do you like my socks? I got them for my birthday as well because I'm always cold. Okay, 400 grams. Actually, I need 400 grams in total. So I'm going to add in, this is the last of the courgette flour. So I'll see how much I've got in here. If I haven't got enough, I'll have to make it up. It's a tiny bit over, but that's fine. So what's been happening? I didn't get a video out last week. We've just been so busy. So do you guys remember that recently, well, was it recently? I can't remember when it was. I mentioned about Grace, my daughter, potentially having a nut allergy, or we knew that she did, but we didn't know how bad, and we haven't seen a doctor about it or anything like that. So we've had that done now, and we spent quite a long time last week to and froing with the doctors. And the short version is she does have a nut allergy, and we now have been issued with all of the usual, the EpiPens and things like that. So I really need to make sure that all of the cooking that I do for her, and the best thing really is for cooking from scratch so we know what's gone in it, all of the cooking that I do, make sure it contains no nuts, and if we do eat out, got to be super careful about anything that people are cooking for her and things like that. So been a bit of a learning curve for us over the last week or so. So I'm just putting honey in instead of sugar. You don't need it, but we like it. Made my gloves sticky now. No, I hate sticky gloves. And as I say, it was also my birthday, so we've been busy with that. We've just been working full time. It's freezing here, so been below freezing for a few days now, which means that the taps outside are frozen. So everything's taken us a lot longer because, 1 teaspoon, because we're having to handball water from the house for all of the animals. That's taken a heck of a long time. And yeah, it's just been... it's been challenging. So I'm back this week just to give you an update on what's going on. Now, the salt that I normally use, I've got the Himalayan salt just because I like it. I've run out, so I'm just using regular salt. And I know people will say, oh, you're not supposed to put the yeast and the salt together. Well, you're not. And I'm making sure that it's separate there. Just get the water. So we need 280 ml of water. And then that is everything, and I'm going to go and pop this in the bread maker just on the standard bread setting, and we'll come back at the end and show you what it looks like. So that's it now. I'm just going to get tidied away. So yeah, it's been another challenging few weeks. There's a theme to this year, and it's I'll be glad when we get into next year. I've got lots of plans. Let's just see what life throws at us in the meantime. So not only as obviously we had the issue with Stephen breaking his back, Jack breaking his ankle, and now Grace with the nut allergy. We're working through all of that, and Stephen is much better and back to work and doing everything that he was doing, just with the usual aches and pains. But that's probably nothing to do with the broken back. I think that's just age related. So thank you for everyone that's asked and inquired about that. And the other thing that's happened, seeing as though we're on a roll, is my car is completely broken. So essentially I was driving home the other night, the exhaust fell off. Turns out that the repairs that are needed to it were more expensive than the car was worth. So we're talking thousands, and it was only a cheap run around car. Had it for about 4 years coming up. So it's due its MOT. And even though you could maybe patch up the car to get through another few months or whatever, it just wasn't going to be something that would pass an MOT, and therefore probably not safe really. And I need my car to get to work, I need my car to take the kids to school. So it's been interesting. We sold it at the weekend. We took it to one of these car places that buy them, and just we buy any car, you've probably heard of it, never used one before. Can't imagine I'll use it again, but they took it off our hands, and actually we got quite a good price for it compared to what I thought I was going to get, knowing what was wrong with it. So that money now is sat waiting to be put into a new car, because although I've given consideration to trying to go down to a one-car family, we just can't. And it work for me is a 30-minute commute there, 30 minutes back obviously. Got to take the kids to school. They can't realistically walk every morning from here, because it's about an hour and a half for them to walk, just because of the route and where we live and things like that. And Stephen at the moment is doing the morning routine for me, so that's very difficult for him to incorporate that into work. All that kind of thing. So we're looking for a new car, and I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home up until when my holidays start, which is Friday. So this is now Wednesday, I think, and I've got a couple of weeks off around Christmas, and I can manage without a car over that time, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously when Stephen's home I can use his car and everything will work out, but come the new year I'm going to need a new car to get the kids to school and to go to work. That's a very long-winded way of saying my car's broken, I need a new one. And it's money that we didn't want to be spending. So takes us back, you know, to the cost of living discussion, in that we've got savings there, which we've saved up over multiple years and used for things like the house repairs when we need things doing to the land and things like that. Ideally, I don't want to be spending it on a new car. We would prefer to do the car repairs and then know what we've got with the car and keep it running, but that's just not an option this time. So we're also having to put our hand in our pocket for a new car. We don't do PCP, or, you know, we don't want to get a loan or anything like that. We've got no other debt apart from the mortgage is the only debt that we've got, and that's the way we want to keep it, especially with things how they are at the moment, with the volatility of the world and the economy and jobs. And we're just making sure that we're not hanging any more nooses around our necks, because it's bad enough feeling as though you've got a mortgage to pay every month, as well as all of the utility bills, etc. And that leads me into something for next year where I'm hoping that we're going to be able to try and get some more savings in the bank. So we're going to have to really cut down again, or continue to cut down, should I say, on what we're spending in other areas, so that we can try and get a few months worth of wages saved separately to our other savings, just in case anything happens with the jobs. You just don't know, the world's a really volatile place at the moment, and obviously electricity is supposed to be going up again in April next year. You know, groceries, the cost of inflation is only going one way. So I really want to make sure we're continuing our efforts as we move into next year. Minimal spends, and just keeping as much money out of our wages as we can. So I'm looking forward to that. I do like a good challenge. Not New Year's resolution. These aren't on that kind of thought process. Just what do we want to achieve next year, and that's definitely one thing. And I've got loads of garden thoughts, which I'll do on a separate video. But right now, actually, on the garden, and I've got some elephant garlic that I got some seeds. I couldn't resist. I've already got some, but they didn't get as big as I wanted. So I've bought some off somebody else that are quite a lot bigger, so that I want to try and every year, just as a crazy little thing. I'm going to get those elephant garlic in today. It's too late. It's not too late. It's later than I would like, but I've only just got them, so I didn't have a choice. While this bread is on then, I'm going to take you back to a video that I filmed, not this week, but last week, when I intended to get last week's video out, where I started making chicken soup. And I've had a few people ask, how do you do that? Or it was more of a noodle soup, kind of a healthy, it's got ginger and lemon and all those good things in it. And in fact, I can't remember if I put ginger in this one. You can, and it's lovely. Root ginger grated in, or, you know, whatever you like. If you've got it in a jar, or I suppose you could even use a bit of powder if you wanted. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to take you back to that video now, which I started showing you how I go about making that soup. Now, I promised I'd show you how I do this chicken soup, and I'm steaming ahead, and I haven't told you yet. So in here we've got 1 large onion, 3 carrots, and I've put in loads of garlic, some ginger, chopped ginger out of a jar because I haven't got any fresh left. If I had paste, I would use paste. Some thyme, just a good sprinkle, a couple of stock cubes just for extra flavour. I am going to use my own stock, but just for extra flavour. And I'm going to add some honey, so my lemon, honey preserved lemons, I'm going to get some of that in as well, which is just all good stuff for this time of the year. But I always just cook these down quite a bit to get the recipe started before I add the stock in. I'm doing the chicken separate in the oven this time. I haven't had time to do fresh broth, so the chicken will just be pieces if you want. So essentially it's going to be a noodle soup with chicken on the side. It's going to be delicious. Now, as you can see, I haven't been feeling great today. I'm tired, didn't sleep too well. The other thing that I've added in just to perk me up a bit is some of the garlic that I've got in honey. And really you should eat those raw for the full benefits, but you can cook with them as well. And this, can you see how runny that is? What the lemons have done to that honey. So that's all going in. I've just added that in now. And my other secret ingredient, it's not really that secret, is a few drops of fish sauce. Sounds disgusting, but it's not. So I'm just going to add the broth in now. Chicken is in the Aga, as I say, and then this is just going to cook down. I'll put some peas and noodles in for the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending how long these noodles take, because these ones are dried, not fresh. And we'll just have a nice hearty chicken noodle soup for our meal tonight. This is just turkey broth. And typically, I got to the end of that footage and realised I didn't actually show you what it looked like when I was eating it. So that is the basic start to the soup, and all I do once I've done that is add in whatever noodles I've got. So be it dried egg noodles, or you can get so many different types. I wasn't aware, but as you guys know, I went on a bit of a noodle buying spree when Stephen broke his back, probably with the intention of making lots of chicken soup. And I've still got quite a few of them, and I'm really loving this soup at the moment. So because I didn't have the chicken cooked to make a stock, and then I didn't use that chicken that I cooked in the stock and added it to the soup, all I did was cook the chicken separately in the oven, as you heard, because the kids actually just wanted noodle soup. They didn't want chicken noodle soup for some reason. They tend to prefer the breast meat to the legs and the thighs. So that works out really well actually, because Stephen can have his soup and then have a chicken thigh at the same time, which feels as though he's got something to get his teeth into, and it's absolutely delicious. So I literally add the noodles at the end for however long I need for the cooking time. It's usually just a few minutes, and serve it up, and it's really good. I put sauerkraut on, or you can put spring onions on, anything that you want as a topping, or just eat it as it is, and it's really good the next day and the next day as well. And I do take it to work and use it for a warm lunch, or I can actually heat it up at work and I use it to have as a lunch at work too. So that's something I highly recommend doing, and hopefully one day I will show you what the end results look like instead of not filming the full thing, so apologies for that. And this week, as I say, we're coming to holiday season, so I haven't been having a specific menu plan. I've just been taking the meat out of the freezer, and depending on what time we have, because we've had, as I say, with birthdays and different appointments, we have not quite known how much time we'll have on a night. So sometimes I've been making stuff on I've done lots of tray bakes just because of their simplicity, and you know how much I love those. And we've just been a little bit reactive as to the time, because we haven't always known how long we've got, what time we're going to be in, if family are going to be visiting. We've been out for 1 or 2 meals to celebrate as well, which was really nice. Difficult with Grace, just to make sure obviously that she gets something that she's allowed, that's not going to make her ill in any way, but everything was fine. So that was a really positive start on that front. And now my attentions are really turning to what are we going to have around the festive period. So I'm going to sit down after I close out this video and just have a look at, I've got my Maryberry Christmas book, I've got Nigella's, which I'm not as keen on as the Maryberry one, and just start planning out the days around Christmas and what we're going to be having when. I don't always plan for breakfast and lunch as well as for the main, or well, I suppose we'll probably be eating about 2 o'clock on Christmas Day, so that might class as our lunch on Christmas Day, but it's a heck of a size of a lunch. And just planning out really what we're going to have when, and what snacks we're going to have, and when people are visiting, what we can share with them and things like that. And that's going to include the drinks as well as the food. So I'm going to sit down and get started with that, and I'll include that on next week's video, let you know what the outcome is there. And obviously for Christmas week, there is no budget, so I won't be sticking to £25 a week budget then. This week we actually only bought packed lunch stuff and a couple of bags of veg, and it came to £16 and a few pennies. So that's been working out really well. Bit of a whirlwind because I haven't been going to Aldi on the days that I've planned, because it's just not worked out. So I've been trying to fit it in when I can get the car, and Stephen's dropped me off and this, that and the other. So yeah, £16 for this week, and last week was, I think it was 21 something, but anyway, both weeks were under the 25, which I'm really pleased about. I've stopped transferring the difference into a bank account because what I was doing is anything that I was under £25 I was saving. But obviously when Stephen broke his back, we were spending more because I was getting the Tesco deliveries and what have you. And so I've stopped doing that, and we'll maybe pick that up next year, because we were going to use the difference for Christmas, but there's just not going to be, it wouldn't be worth it. We'd be talking like, you know, £20 or something like that. And at the moment, it's just not worth it. It's extra hassle for me, but we might pick it back up in the new year, and we might not. But as long as I keep under the £25 a week, except for Christmas week, then I'll be happy when I get to the end of this challenge, because it's not that easy, especially with the costs of things and it going up so much. And people think, oh, well, you've got so much on the smallholding. Well, truth is, I actually didn't grow as much as I wanted this year. So we're relying on what we can purchase now, apart from a few of the staples like the potatoes and a few other bits and pieces that I've got there that we have grown ourselves, but everything else we're buying in. So yeah, it's quite difficult to stay under the £25, as you saw the other week when I went ever so slightly over. I think that was the first week back after Stephen's illness, when I didn't actually go in with this exactly what I wanted priced out. And that's the key for the planning for me, making sure that you've got your list and you know how much things cost if you have to stay under that budget. I did manage to capture one more meal that I made, which was the venison and apricot casserole. So I got the idea from the National Trust, which I think I tell you about in the footage. So I'll show you that now, and then we'll come back and we'll probably wrap up this video, because I just wanted a quick check-in to say hi and let you know how everything's going, and that I'm still here, still doing this. I'm just really busy until I finish work on Friday, and hopefully then we can all have some proper catch-up time before we get to Christmas and as we go into 2023. Well, for tonight's meal, we are finally using some of those apricots from the fridge. I'm making a venison and apricot casserole. So it's based on the National Trust book that you guys saw me menu planning from last week, and I'm just going to add in some onions and carrots, just your usual basic stew ingredients, and I'm going to serve it just on a bed of mash. Got some sprouts there, actually. I might put some sprouts in as well. but just a different variation on a one pot. Not all done in the same pot tonight, so I'll have some extra things to wash up, but that's just fine. I'm looking forward to this one. Now the recipe calls for apple juice or apricot juice, but I don't have, well, I do have apple juice, but it's just the stuff that I've recently canned, and I have got some pitted prunes in juice that I want to get used up before I start on the apple juice. Now the prunes that we had in the fridge recently, they've all gone. Stephen's been having those on his breakfast, but these are in their own juice, and I think instead of using apple juice, this will be a really good substitute. I can't open it with my left hand, so I'm going to leave that, and I'm still going to add some of the apricots chopped up really fine. These are the unsalted or whatever they're called, so that's why they're a funny colour. Because if the kids see them, they'll just leave them. So I'm going to make sure everything's chopped up really fine, and then it's going to just simmer down in the agar for probably a couple of hours before we actually eat it. So I've got in the pan at the moment, I've got the onions and the carrots have just gone in, so they're just going to soften off a bit. I'll add the venison and just give it a brown off, and then I'll add the prunes and the last of the red wine that I didn't drink last night. I know. Well, it's Friday. So the courgette bread was absolutely lovely, and this is all that's left of it. It was actually a little bit overdone, so I put it in the bread maker on the dark setting, which normally is not dark in the slightest, and that's the sort of how you want the bread to look in the end. It just adds another 5 minutes on, and yeah, it came out so a little bit darker, so I don't know if that was just the courgette flour this time. Anyway, you can see it's got kind of like it's like a green fleck tinge to it, and a slightly more yellow bread, which it was last time. It was still absolutely delicious. I think the yeast might be on its way out though, because it didn't rise as much as I wanted it to. So I'll probably get a new pack to start the year. I tend to buy that in Amazon, so that won't be on the weekly shop as such. I'm just going to grab a pack from Amazon, because there's absolutely no point in having yeast that's not going to make the bread rise, because then it's just going to be a complete waste of time and energy and all of that kind of thing, and it's not that expensive. So that, I can't believe it's Friday already. That is the end of another video. Thanks for putting up with me. Thanks for watching to the end, and I shall be back next week before Christmas, because I am officially finishing work this week and I'll have all the time in the world. Now what? You know what's going to happen, but I'll hopefully catch you before Christmas, and I'll talk to you soon.